Hello, how are you? How are you doing? How have you been? It's Janice, and I'm so glad that it's another day just to see you, talk with you, and just to share what has been happening in the homestead. If you're a new subscriber, welcome so much to the channel. Kindly feel free, consider subscribing, be part of the family. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back, welcome back. So today I will be taking this time to just share a quick update on what has been happening in the 3-bedroom new build, and also share the things I wish I knew before starting on this journey of electrical works. Because my friend, some of the mistakes I've made, I wouldn't want you to make them. So yes, be on the lookout, and you never know, these things that I've learned, they could save you some huge sum of money. And let me just start right from the kitchen. So this is my kitchen, and yes, I did have an interior designer who did the interior plan of the house. But I'm telling you, what you see on paper versus what happens on the ground or at the site, totally different. So as you can see here in the kitchen, in the initial plan, this is the point where we needed to have the fridge. But the kitchen is a little bit small, so we opted to switch that position to this other end. So one of the things I wish I considered before starting the electrical works was just to make sure I had visualized everything about the kitchen and how I wanted everything else to just work out. So I brought in the first guy we started with. I'm not really sure if he knew what he was doing, but he didn't follow the plan as it was meant to be. And so now I've had to bring in another electrician to help me fix a few things that have really cost me an arm and a leg. And I wouldn't want you to learn this the hard way. So before you start your electrical works, kindly visualize each and every space. And in the kitchen, right now I have these sockets here, and I have another provision there that is extending all the way down, where we'll be having a strip light or a snake light that will be running all the way, because here I'm going to build a breakfast bar or a breakfast nook. So yes, I'll be introducing a breakfast bar over here, and so I would want it to have a snake light, and that's why we have this provision over here. This is the socket for switching it on, the switch for switching it on, and then the point will run from down here all around the breakfast bar. And then this other socket over here, this first socket that was initially meant for the fridge, I'm thinking of using it for the microwave. And then the key things that I introduced, so you can literally see that I had to come in and write for the new electrician. I want to introduce a smoke extractor and also an oven. So we didn't have these 3 provisions. So these are what we call the heater switch. So the heater switch, in the sense that, once you have a built-in microwave or a fridge and a built-in oven, I wanted something that, we don't have to keep pulling the microwave out of the cabinet. So this heater switch, once the microwave is plugged in here, then we'll be using this heater switch to just switch it on here, and to use it to switch it on and switch it off, and automatically the microwave will be functional. And then we have a second one. So we have one for the microwave, one for the fridge, and This one is for the hood. Yes, it's for the smoke extractor. And then this one is just a normal switch that we'll be using just here on the worktop. So these are additions that, I had to instruct the electrician to add and to give me this provision. So yes, you can see, and also we didn't have this place, so you can see this extra cost we had to, to hack the wall and make provision for this piping. So you can imagine having to lose the materials that were used here during the plastering. So I have to replaster back. I have to replaster most of these places to fix these repairs. So you can imagine the cost of repair that has gone here. You can imagine paying the first electrician and then the second electrician who came to do the wiring, and now I'm having the third electrician. The second one was good. It's just that he's coming from far away place. He's coming all the way from Kisumu, but now I have someone else right from Nakuru. And so even down here, we had to introduce another socket. We had to introduce another socket where we'll be using for the oven. So the reason why you see I have the oven connector there, and it will all depend on what we'll be having. Yes, because there are these ovens whereby if you can't cut the plug out, so you have to connect it directly in the socket. But then we have those other ones, the standalone ovens that sometimes we get to cut the plug and just connect it directly to the connector. So depending on what I will get, I have made that provision available. Initially, all I had was this, and the connector was here. We thought we'll be using this one, the connector only, but we decided to just introduce this other one over here. So you can see all those changes. And so maybe something else you can see on this other side where I'll be having the sink. I have not made any provision for the dishwasher. But please, if you are considering in the future to have a dishwasher, you should be having a socket right somewhere near the sink. I'm not sure whether it should be on the right or whether it should be on the left. But whatever you'll be doing, if you'll also be having a water purifier system, you'll also be needing to have another socket on this side. So considering the functionality of each and every space, my friend, will save you from having the worst nightmare of your life. Because my friend, all these repairs in this house, the labor alone has cost me 20,000 shillings. That's almost $200, and that is a cost I would have spared myself from having. Another change we did was, this is the dining area. We only had one socket over there, but we decided to introduce this second one just in case we decide to have a water dispenser in this corner. Yeah, I felt this corner was more functional, unlike the other one, because there we have some plumbing pipes that are passing there. And so I didn't want, during the hacking of the wall, for any damage, and also on the pipe. I don't want to bring in a plumber again to fix some of these mistakes that were actually avoidable. So yes, and another thing to consider, welcome to the living room. Another key thing to consider when it comes to functionality, it's about, taking care of the TV cables and the TV wiring. So initially I had only two sockets down here. I had this socket over here with everything. It had the cable for the TV, and also all the wiring for sockets, for charging the phones and any other thing that I would need. But now I was like, what happens if something just happens and I end up having wires from the TV just hanging all over? And so we had to to hack this part over here and also this other one and introduce this up here. And you can see this one is extending all the way up there. You can imagine hacking your wall that was plastered very nicely, and now you have to hack it again. Such a headache, so much pain. So yes, so the reason why we introduced this other one, it's because initially the TV cable, the aerial, the cable that will be connecting to the aerial, it was sharing a socket. It was sharing a socket with one of the direct current wires, and of course the electrician advised that that is very risky. Should this wire, get some damage, it can easily end up affecting the cable for the aerial and end up also affecting the TV. So please consider some of these functionalities. If you don't want hanging cables from your TV, then consider going for hidden wiring. Consider having some internal wiring. So this is where we'll be having the HDMI passing, we'll be having the TV cables passing. And then something else, when it comes to functionality, consider how high you want the switches to be. Consider how high you want the switches to be. You can see this is where this is so high actually. You see, I literally have to raise my hand to reach it, but this one is almost close to my shoulder, just slightly above my shoulder. And so this one becomes way easier to switch on and switch off. Yes. Something else also, the same thing happened. This other point, you can see, this is right at my living room entrance. You can see we had to hack all the way up there. Wow, my goodness, it was just such an headache. You can see we had also to move the switches from up to down, just a comfortable height, so that you don't have to strain. Another thing I wish I knew, it's about the material selection. It's another important, very important factor to consider. You can see the first electrician advised us to get he advised us to get a 6-way CCU, that is the consumer unit. And then it happened to turn out to be so small because there are so many pipes that were supposed to pass here. And so when the third electrician came in, I remember the second electrician complained about that. And now the third electrician was also like, this is too small. So you see, we ended up having to hack the wall. We had to hack this wall, remove the first consumer unit, which was the 6-way, and bring in a 12-way consumer unit and add more pipes into the consumer unit. So right now we have a total of about 9. We have around 10 pipes in there. So because of that, you can see that we really suffered some costs over there. And even this point, this is where I'll be having a sink just outside the common bathroom. And so you see, this is a point for a mirror that will be here. So the first electrician, I'm not sure, I think is just so old school, so he put this big socket over there. Yet what was needed was just a small point. So guys, the other thing I wish I knew was that not all electricians are electricians. Some are just so outdated. They are not up to date with the new way of doing things. So before you get an electrician, make sure they are up to date with how things are supposed to be done. And so this is another socket that was, that was introduced. And so this is the socket that, it's what we call a heater switch. It's another heater switch. So outside in my front porch, I have a socket over there, but because of security reasons, we introduced this heater switch over here, and this is what we'll be using to switch on and switch off the socket outside in the entry porch. The same thing happens for both the front porch and the back porch. And the reason why we decided to make this heater switch in one of the bedrooms, it's because you find that in Kenya the thieves are notorious. You will have your socket outside in your entry porch, and then when they want to steal from you, they will come with a grinder. They will come with a grinder, and then they will use that your socket to cut through your windows and gain access into the house. So isn't that a genius idea? To have the heater switch, for switching on and switching off the socket that is outside in the entry porch. So I think that is quite good. If you've not heard of such stories, my friend, tembea Nairobi, tembea Kisumu, and then you will be shocked. You will be shocked at how far thieves can go when they have decided to, to gain access into your house. What you thought you had put somewhere for, for ease of use, for ease of accessibility, for functionality, ends up being a weapon that will be used against you. So yes, another thing that I wish I knew is that not just to follow the interior plans of the house, but also to bring an interior designer right into the house, into the site. So if your budget allows, please consult an interior designer and bring them right to the site. And you will be shocked, you will be surprised, especially here in Kenya, how friendly most of them are, and how, how affordable it is to consult them. You may part with some 3,000 to 5,000 shillings just for consultation to your site, and the advice they will give you, it's actually better. You will save a lot more. Imagine 5,000 to bring an interior designer into the site versus almost 70,000 that I've had to use. That is material plus labor to fix and to do repairs that are related to electrical works. So my friend, those three things: functionality, material selection, bringing an interior designer on site, and also consider the future use. Which future plans do you have? Do you want to bring a dishwasher? Yeah, those are things you should really consider, and an interior designer will advise best. I'm not advocating for them. I'm just sharing my lessons that I've learned the hard way, that I wouldn't want you to learn, and I also want to save you huge bucks. And when you think I am joking, just look at this huge mess over here. This is how much they had to hack my bathroom wall. This is the bathroom for bedroom number 2. And you can see how they have the new electrician, you can see how they made this. I know it's a little bit dark. You can see how they bent this pipe over here. That is the modern way. That is the modern way of, of bending pipes with a bender. But now my other electrician, he used this, how are they called? I think they are bends. He used these bends, like almost 10 of them. So you can imagine how difficult it was to, you can imagine how difficult it was to pass the wires. It was so difficult that they had to hack the wall. And that's the same thing that happened to my guest house that you can see over there. the slab, like we couldn't access anything and we had to do a lot of hacking. Please save yourself from headache. Save yourself from headache and learn from my lessons. Welcome to the primary bedroom. Welcome to the primary bedroom. This is where also we made some huge changes. Okay, not very huge, but well, it did add up to, you know, to the cost of repairs. So we had this socket, we had 2 sockets down here, but now we had to introduce a third one. We had to introduce a third one for the cable, for the cable, for the internet, and also for the TV. So we had to, you know, introduce this socket over there, and this other one for the aerial, or for the internet, sorry, for the internet. So you can see how they had to hack my wall, and even my new ceiling. And by the way, you can see, how do you like the Ugandan ceiling? Finally, you can see, that's the Ugandan ceiling. You can see we finally did the plastering, and that's how it looks like. Looking forward to the skimming. So also, when I'm talking about functionality, this is something else you need to consider. So this is the side, this is where the bed will be, and so this is the switch for switching off the lights, and a socket over there. So we had to introduce the same on this other side. The first electrician did not do it, and we were like, we will not need it. We will not need it. And then later on, I just imagined my better half is so tired, and I have to, you know, jump over him to go switch off the light. And I was like, hell no. I was like, let me just suffer the consequences right now and just allow these electricians to hack my wall. And, you know, you can see, oh my goodness, it's so painful. I have to pay for another labor for somebody, and also to get another bag of cement for these repairs to be done by my mason when he will be plastering and fixing this. And imagine, all these things are avoidable. You can avoid all this heartache. Oh my God, I feel pain in my heart. You can avoid all this heartache by making sure you picture, you visualize how you want your house to be. So initially I did picture, but I didn't picture everything in its totality. So right now the house, I can say we are getting somewhere. I made sure there are provision for downlighters, provision for snake lights, provision for strip lights, and provision for security lights. Yes, my friends. Maybe another update that I will give you is that we've done the plastering of the Ugandan ceiling, and we've also done the screeding. The screeding is done. We only have 3 rooms left. That is the living room, you can see, which will be starting tomorrow. The living room, and the dining area, and of course the kitchen, and building the breakfast bar over here. My kitchen is 3 meters, 3.1 by 3, yes, 3.1 by 3 meters. So we decided to do away with the kitchen island and instead introduce a breakfast bar over here. Now, maybe you can advise me, should I introduce a pendant light up here? I really didn't want anybody to touch my molding. So that's something I'm going back and forth thinking about. But but I think the breakfast bar is a good idea compared to having a kitchen island, because you can see that kitchen is quite small. And yes, we also brought in some new family members. We have a turkey, 2 of them, and they have started to lay eggs. And soon I'll be having more chicks. I'll be having about 7 chicks. And we'll be having so many turkey in the compound. So the homestead is taking shape. Slowly but surely. So yeah, tell me, what do you think? Do you think I've learned the hard way? Like, oh, I'm just laughing because, like, oh my goodness, like, why didn't I think about all these things in its totality? Functionality of a space goes a long way. Material selection, please don't be duped into getting fake wires, fake cables. I think the best cables in Kenya right now, East African cables, which somehow people are complaining they have reduced the quality a little bit, but they're still good. East African cables, Coast cables, and HTG cables. I think those are very good cables. So if you are going to get cables for wiring in your house, consider going with those brands. I'm not advertising for anybody. That's just my personal opinion based on my electrician's recommendations. And also make sure your electrician advises you on the correct size of the CCU you will need. Honestly, if you're going to have things like, downlighters, you're going to have snake lights, you're going to have, they're going to have to put in trappers and all those many things that those many wires that are going to pass through the pipes. Please make sure you get the best advice on the consumer unit to get. They don't cost much, but imagine just having to remove one, replace with another one, and then where will you take it? You can't take it back to the shop, right? So that is money wasted that can buy you cement. Yeah, so yes. Thank you so much for joining. It's been good having you. Share your thoughts. What are the things you wish you knew before you did your electrical works? Did you make provision, like for those who like makeup, did you make provision for your mirror? Did you put a provision for a light so that, when you're doing your makeup, the light can really be like very well, so that you can see what you're doing, as opposed to having the light at the back, like at the center of the bathroom. So those are some of the things I considered. I had to make those changes. So please consider functionality, material selection. Electricians, not all of them are who they say they are. And of course, consider getting the advice of an interior designer at a very early stage. It's not that costly. It will save you from headache, and you can use that money in something else. So you can imagine, the second electrician, 50,000 for wiring, gone like that. And they had to do many things, like because of the small consumer unit, the second electrician really had to play with the wires up there. He really had to play with the wires. Literally, there are some sockets that there are some lights that shared the system from the sockets. I don't know if I'm making sense. The same wire that was, the sockets were getting their power from the sockets, not from the switches. Right now, we have separated everything. The switches, they are independent. Their wiring is independent. The sockets, their wiring is independent. Just everything. The trappers, they're just independent. Everything is just, on point. Otherwise, bye-bye. Forgive me for talking too much. See you next time.